Hi. Hello, my name is Julian Romero, and today we're going to be talking about my research topic, which is analyzing TikTok and box office success. So, first of all, the big question that kind of started the whole research project was, is the use of TikTok for film and media reviews in Americans between the ages of 16 and 40 linked to the success or failure of films at the box office? So, I wanted to know basically if movies that are being talked about, pushed, sponsored on TikTok, if those movies are becoming more successful than, let's say, films that are not using TikTok as a marketing strategy. In order to do this research, I did want to focus on content analysis. It will be a quantitative research because I want to put numbers to it. And we're going to explore the theory of uses and gratification. Now, I went all through every step of what was needed for this class. And at the end, I wanted to do kind of a mock research project with it. So there are some mock results, and I just kind of wanted to see, based on the literature review and based on what I've read and kind of learned, what the outcome could be if we went through with the research project. So first, the research questions are kind of broken down into sections. So the quantitative research questions for content analysis, we have the entertainment gratification, information seeking gratification, and social interactive gratification. And you can see based on the slide that there are some questions, within each one, talking about, how frequently do TikTok users use entertaining formats like skits or memes or dramatic edits, things like that. I wanted to know what proportion of videos included factual film-related content and what percentage of the reviews engage with other users, and does it actually have, an impact on them. So more is self-expression gratification, also perceived influences on viewing behavior, and box office correlation. Again, you can see some example questions within each subcategory. Something that was very important to note was that each of the questions are going to be coded, and they're going to be coded using a binary, so yes or no, and they're going to do ordinal, so low, medium, high, and the frequency or the count. And I kind of wanted to do this because it was going to be a little bit easier to put a number to these questions and to code it correctly. So we're going to do that, and we're going to analyze it using descriptive and inferential statistics, so like chi-square tests, correlations, things like that. They also map directly into the UNG theories, and they also are addressing observable behaviors. And that is linking back to the commercial success of the films. So the abstract of the paper itself, the study is examining the relationship between TikTok film reviews and box office performance. I did want to specifically focus on American audiences between the ages of 16 and 40. I thought it was important to kind of pick a specific demographic. And using the uses and gratification theory, the research is going to investigate how those specific TikTok users, their motivations like entertainment and information seeking, social interaction, and self-expression, how those affect their viewing decisions and subsequently the box office performance of this film that they're seeing, they're engaging with. I did want to go the quantitative route, as I said before, because I wanted to analyze it. I wanted to put numbers so we can quantify, the numbers, the money, the box office success, things like that. So we're going to be pulling 300 TikTok videos related to 10 newly released films. I wanted to do 10. It's an easy whole number. I wanted to do 5 that were a success and 5 that were a failure. And I wanted to kind of compare those two and see the difference between engagement, metrics, views, likes, shares, things like that. There's also different points that I talk about in the paper. There's a statistical analysis revealed, and in the mock research that I did conduct, I guess you could say, it's going to show that there is a significant correlation. And this this kind of came upon because of all the different articles and research I read and went through based on other topics through the literature reviews, different research that, was focused maybe not just on TikTok, maybe not just on that demographic, but social media as a whole. So using that as a basis, the mock research kind of came into play, showing that there is a correlation. The study finds that TikTok's influence on box office performance can be quantified, and that's really important because, like I said, we want to put a number, and I think the numbers will be easier to kind of show and understand than just, a qualitative view of it. And there are limitations to the research. So like I said, I picked a specific demographic and I wanted to do it just in America. I wanted to do just the ages that I see are the most, most users on TikTok are of in that range. So I think that was a really big focus. I wanted to focus it just on that. And I wanted to contribute somehow to understanding the growing role of TikTok. It's a huge market strategy right now. There's no more print, billboards, a lot of what we see as movie reviews or trailers or promotions are on social media and TikTok specifically. So that's why I picked that as a whole. So we're going to start talking a little bit about the literature review. Each one that I have, there's a subsection. So we have uses and gratification theory, and you can see I have, from when the theory was kind of talked about at first, from 1973, and a lot of the articles, a lot of the research that I was going through was as recent as last year, 2024. And I think that's important because it's showing that we are still evolving. And even as soon as like December 2024, we still have new research, new numbers, things like that. So I wanted to kind of pull in some of the old versus a lot of the new because we are growing, we are evolving. So there's a lot of different things that are talking about, people and the context of TikTok, how it's rapidly growing, how the UNG theory can be expanded to quantify how users are using it, their motivations, and how that's adding to the success or the failure of not just films, but as media, as brands, as anything that can be used for the UNG theory as a whole. Again, we have more kind of different articles within the UNG theory. Again, TikTok provides a unique setting for application of the theory. We have TikTok allowing users to access information content, which is a huge thing. I know a lot of people don't really have cable anymore, or they don't have streaming services. They have their phone and they have TikTok or social media, and that's where they get most of their entertainment, news, media, things like that. So it's important to keep that in mind. Quantitative analysis of TikTok's algorithm. The algorithm is the biggest player in this because we are using that to focus what we want to show to who we want to show it. So it's really important that I focused a lot of the research on the algorithm, which I pulled a lot of different articles from Penn, Martinez, and Peterson. And again, you can see that a lot of the dates are from 2024. A little bit more here on the UNG theory. We have the recent research, which is showing that, from Sundar and Limperos, who was back in 2013, but they did kind of talk about how now it's uses and gratifications 2.0, which I thought was, very unique to kind of name it. But it takes into account the new media environments like TikTok. And back in 2013, TikTok wasn't even really as big as it is now. And because of the pandemic, because we were, pushed to kind of seclude ourselves from other people, TikTok kind of blew up. So back, I have 1970s, 2013s to 2020s, and it's kind of just showing you all the difference in between of that. So it's very important that all of these were pooled and used for this because I wanted to show how it's evolved. Okay, another one that we have is TikTok and its quantifiable influence on box office success. There were some research topics and articles that I came across that do kind of touch upon it. Again, I wanted to focus more on a specific demographic, which is why I picked Americans between the ages of 16 and 40. This is kind of more broad, but I did find it very interesting. And the studies show that it is able to be quantifiable. They show that there is a significant difference in films or marketing strategies through TikTok versus nothing, which I think is very important. And it helps to show that studies are utilized regression analysis to correlate the frequency. So they're putting numbers to it, which I think is very important for us to, focus on and really dig in a little bit deeper. Another subcategory is TikTok and its quantifiable influence on box office success. Again, TikTok specifically. We have articles and research that was used since 2024. Again, right? Last year. We're showing that there's a relationship between content like reviews, memes, reactions, and the box office performance, which is very important because, like I said, we want to put a number to that. The findings also indicate that influencer endorsements, we're not just talking about TikTok as a whole, we're talking specifically focused influencers who this is their job. Their job is to promote films, talk about films, specific genres of films, but these influencers and their endorsements are super important. And I think that's something that, needs to be kind of researched a little bit more thoroughly. And again, viral marketing and social media engagement, it's very important to know about marketing and how that is now turning into something that more films, and not just films, but brands, products, things like that are turning to for their marketing. It's not just TV commercials, it's social media engagement. Influencer marketing, like I talked about previously, a little bit more in depth of the different articles, which I guess really are important to kind of, hone in on why, what's going on, things like that. And the justification for the research question. The research question, like I had said before, it is linked to the success. And this is a critical gap in the existing literature because I was very focused on Americans 16 to 40. I wanted that to be the highlight of it. And that is something that hasn't really been focused upon. It's been more broad. It's been worldwide or, specific regions or kind of like 18 and over. But I think that 16 is important because that's when people, teenagers nowadays are using social media. So I just want to see a kind of more honed in demographic as what, 16 to 40 Americans. That's what we wanted. And it's again, like I said, because they're very active on TikTok. And I wanted to see specific to this demographic what it does. So the method that I'm going to be using for the research is going to be quantitative content analysis. This is allowing for the systematic and objective coding, which is important. And it's grounded in the uses and gratification theory, like I've said before, but it also provides a framework for analyzing the motivations, which is important. And I also wanted to note that for the purpose of the study, the film's performance will be judged by its overall gross, compared to the film's production and marketing budget. So we want to see what the overall budget was and what profit it made after everything was spent. And that's going to be the profitability. That's going to be the standard metric for how we're coding. We're going to be pulling, like I said, 300 TikTok videos between a specific date, May 1st and June 30th. Excuse me. We're going to make sure everything is in English. We're going to maintain consistency so that everything is correctly coded, categorized, everything like that. The sample is going to be about the theatrical film releases. We're not going to focus on streaming. We're not going to focus on anything else besides the theatrical film releases. And the videos will be selected across 3 different engagement tiers, which I think is very important. We're doing high, mid, and low. And the inclusion criteria would be that the video has to reference box office performance in some way, personal viewing choices, or reactions to the film. As far as the variables and coding, each variable will be coded as a categorical number. So the coders will receive training. That's very important. I want to make sure every coder knows specifically what they're looking for and how to code it. And the different schemes are going to be, type of user, sentiment, mention of the box office, influence, or engagement metrics. And we're doing data analysis. So it's important that the descriptive statistics summarize the frequency. We're doing the reliability and validity, to me, is one of the most important aspects of the research because we're trying to establish intercoder reliability, which is important with research. And there's going to be 2 different coders. They're going to analyze 25% of the sample, and then it's going to kind of like progress from that point. The process is going to ensure that the accuracy and consistency, and this was back from Sudala, Zhang, and Lee in 2022 and 2023. They brought this kind of plan together, and I think it was important to follow that. And the justification for methodology, a quantitative content analysis, it offers a structured and replicable method. I wanted to make sure that there's something that we can focus on and do it over and over again because it is structured correctly and there are numbers and things, there's no questions, there's no gray areas, it's boom, boom, boom. And that was the main point of why I wanted to do it this way. So I did want to kind of talk about a little bit of a conclusion. Basically, what would happen if I did continue or if I did put this research out? And in a mock research world, the study reinforces that the growing importance of TikTok is significant. And this is based on also different articles and other research, not just specific to the demographic, but as a whole. It did show that TikTok is very important. And that's what I wanted to kind of focus on, that the study emphasizes that. The mock research analysis indicates that positive reactions, positive engagement results in positive box office numbers. And again, vice versa. Negative reactions, negative box office numbers. And we have things to pull forth, just like the new Snow White film. That was such a heavy hitter when it comes to Disney, yet the negativity on social media made the entire film just fail at the theaters. It lost money, it lost fans, viewers, everything you can think of. So it was considered a failure. And that's what I wanted to prove. Social media is such a strong movement that people are constantly working in. And if something negative is on social media, more than likely it's going to be negative in real life. It also, like I said, it supports the hypotheses that TikTok users, their content is powerful, and it really does push, and it makes or breaks the film's success. And that's kind of the emphasis of what I wanted to prove. If you want to do something future with research, we should expand the demographic, kind of expand the films, maybe do different genres, different things like that. But it would definitely still kind of hold the same broad spectrum of how TikTok is very important and how it does affect everything. But there are little things in the middle that you can kind of emphasize more and more. And that's pretty much it. This is my reference list. I pulled a lot from different articles. I went a little bit more in depth because I did want to explore more. I had a lot of fun as a filmmaker myself, somebody who wants to put out films, wants to kind of go the indie route also. I found it was very important for me to research, to learn more about how to market it, how to distribute my films, but more importantly, how to create something that has a path for success, especially in social media age. And I think that it's very helpful. It was a great experience to kind of dig deeper, to learn a lot about what to do, how to do it, and why to do it. And I know, it went a little bit further than what was asked as far as, kind of doing the mock setup and everything like that. But to me, it felt more complete as a whole. And so I did really enjoy the topic. And that's it. I do really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's kind of over the 10-minute, but I did kind of have a very in-depth report that I really wanted to try to show the emphasis, the importance, and just kind of how much fun, I know it sounds crazy, but how much fun it was to learn more about this, to research it, and especially because this is my passion, this is my future, it's important to be informed. So I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much.